Okay, guys, this is my attempt at doing a recording of the vocab. So we're going to see how it goes. This is literally a very quick review of every single word we've done. So what I mean by that is I'm literally going to give you one or two keywords for every single word that's on here. And you need to check your study guide that either, or your vocab list, that you either knew that word or you highlighted and defined it already. I talk quickly, so please remember that you can watch this video at half speed or 2x if I'm not talking fast enough. So let's go ahead and begin. Abiotic, our key is non-living. Our ACE word for that is non-living. Acquired is something you do not inherit. This is something that cannot be passed down. It is developed over time is our keyword there, acquired, developed over time. Adaptation, your keywords, remember, for natural selection, evolution, and adaptation are all survive and reproduce. So a trait that allows an organism to survive and reproduce, right? Remember, the key is not only to live, but to pass down those genes. All right, asexual reproduction, one parent, and they are identical. So we call those clones. An allele is a specific type of gene. Remember, genes are what tell you your hair will have color, and allele is what says it will be brown. Mom gives you one allele, sperm gives you one allele, egg gives you one allele. They combine and they battle it out for dominant versus recessive. And then you come out based on your alleles with a hair color. All right. Anomalia is one of our kingdoms. Heterotrophic, meaning it makes its own food. Eats other food. Multicellular, more than one. Eukaryotic, has a nucleus, no cell wall, because it's an animal. Imagine if we had cell walls. Remember, we'd be robust and just like this because our cells are. Okay. Archaea, another one of our kingdoms. Now, this is your basic bacteria, except it's salty. Remember, Archaea bacteria loves a salty. It is a toxic kingdom. Okay. So prokaryotic and unicellular, just like bacteria, but it's toxic. Okay. Salty environments. Artificial selection, keyword humans. Another word is selective breeding. Selective breeding. Okay. Humans. Autotrophic, makes its own food, also known as a producer. Auto meaning self, trophic meaning eating. Bacteria. This is our baseline OG bacteria, right? So it is unicellular, and prokaryotic. I hate science words. Unicellular and prokaryotic. All right, behavior is a reaction to a stimuli. Behavior is a reaction to a stimuli. And what I mean by that is your behavior, what you do, your actions are a response to your situation that your brain is sending you messages to. Let's say your stimuli is hunger, your behavior will go be to eat. Let's say your stimuli is anger, your behavior will be to slap Chris Rock across the face. Yes? Okay. Binary fission, bi meaning two, fission meaning split. Binary means to split into two. DNA, baseline genetic material. And we know that's held in the nucleus. All right, a biome, a large area of land, categorized based off climate, soil, and vegetation. All right. Now remember, a biome is made up of an ecosystem. Biome is just a gigantic ecosystem. An ecosystem we'll get down to. And remember, then it's community, population, organism. And we'll do all of those. Biotic, bio meaning life, it is living. Body fossils, it is the part of the fossil that has been fossilized. Okay, so it's the arm bone, the skull. These are the things you go to the museums to see that are in the front where we can like reconstruct a whole T-Rex. All right. Budding, this is where you have a buddy. Remember, it's hanging off the side of your neck and like you just have a little second friend and then they plop off and go be an identical copy of you. All right, so it's asexual. The offspring is a clone, but it grows off the side of you and then just falls off. It's a buddy. Cardiovascular, delivery system of the body. Delivery system of the body. This is your oxygen and carbon switch. Nope, carbon delivery. All right, deliver. Okay, carnivore eats meat. Carlos Luna invented binomial nomenclature. He's the only scientist on the test. Carrying capacity, the amount or the limit, excuse me, the calculation of how many people we can have or while vibing, while maintaining. So this is where we level off because everyone has what they need. Remember, carrying capacity is we have so many limiting factors. We've now hit this limit. Everyone's vibing, everyone's chill. We're all on the same page. We have what we need. If that continues, let's say with exponential growth, which we'll get to in a second, you are now at overpopulation. You have too many people. And we've now increased competition. And we're now going to have obviously more competition for those resources as well. We have limited resources now. Okay. Cell membrane, security guard determines what comes in and out. What comes in and out. Now, what I mean by that is anything that leaves the cell has to go through the cell membrane. So when we're talking removal of metabolic waste, it's still, our keyword is removal. Remove. So cell membrane is the only thing that can remove anything. So anytime we're removing or entering, that's got to be cell membrane. Cell wall, your keyword rigid. CMCW. Don't mix these together. Remember, we don't have walls in our body. It'd be super confusing. So your keyword is rigid for protection. Chloroplast makes the plant green, aka site of photosynthesis. I love Google autofilling. All right, that is only found in plant cells, obviously, because humans or animals, excuse me, are not green, nor can we make our own energy. I would save so much money on DoorDash. Chromosome, compressed and condensed DNA strands. So we're talking like thousands. So imagine a DNA strand is like a single piece of yarn and a chromosome is a yarn ball. They're X-shaped and they're found in the nucleus. All right, classification. The act of dividing things into categories based on their similarities, but not differences, just similarities. Remember, we are dividing in the beginning of our classification through domain. So if eukarya, everyone that has a nucleus got dumped in the same section. Bacteria, everything that had that specific prokaryotic with unicellular cell walls, etc., got dumped in that. Archaea, super salty, got dumped in that. And then we kept going. Kingdoms are more specialized. Phylums are more specialized. So we keep making them smaller and smaller and more specific based off their similar characteristics. Okay, climate, the average weather over a long period. Google is so creepy. Commensalism, plus and a zero. One benefits, one is vibe, and neither helped nor harmed. Community, this is organism, population, community. So now we have all living things. So we're talking, this is the plants, the animals, yeah, plants and animals, the living things. Competition, a rivalry / fight for the same resources. All right, example of competition was toilet paper in 2020. COVID started in 2020. Consumer, person doing the eating, aka an heterotroph. Don't judge me. Cytoplasm, the jello, holds all the organelles in place. All right, decomposer, eats the dead stuff. Now, the difference between a decomposer and a scavenger. A decomposer returns the nutrients to the soil. A scavenger does not. He is rude and selfish, and he simply eats it, and then he poops it out, and it goes in a cycle and a cycle. All right, deforestation, literally remove, forestation, forest, remove the forest. Clear lands previously forested, previously forested. That's a word, forested. You know what I mean. Desert, dry, hot conditions, limited vegetation. And also can be cold. Fun fact, deserts can be cold. Desertification, the spread of desert-like conditions. Now, some of you apparently learned in social studies that the Sahara Desert is currently undergoing a process of desertification because they've planted an entire circle of trees around the outline of the desert. Obviously, it'd be a super bummer if the whole world turns into a desert. We have no vegetation, we have no animals, we starve. Okay. Dichotomous key, a tool used to determine the species based off characteristics presented as 2-option questions. Okay. Digestive, the system breaks down and absorbs the nutrients from our food. That's this form from. See, y'all, this is why Gerald A is a faster typer than me. DNA, genetic material. I have that on here twice. Dominant. The trait that will always show up. Even if it's heterozygous. Ecosystem is where, remember, community was all the living things, aka biotic. Ecosystem is biotic and abiotic, both. So living and non-living. Now we've added the water, the sun, and the wind. Remember, earth, wind, and fire. Endangered species, they are not gone yet, but they are on the brink of extinction. Energy pyramid. This is a graph that Google is so creepy, that shows the transfer of energy through so creepy, y'all, through trophic levels. Erosion, the removal of earth by wind and water. Estuary, where the river meets the sea, it is called an estuary. You're welcome. You can put that on Spotify. Eubacteria, a kingdom, prokaryotic, aka no nucleus, unicellular, just one of them, both good and bad. We love a yogurt. It's got so much good bacteria. Our digestive system and our small intestine need that bacteria. Super, super important for food digestion and nutrient consumption. All right, one of the 6 kingdoms. Now, eubacteria sounds like bacteria, right? So it's just prokaryotic unicellular. Eukarya sounds like eukaryotic. Eukarya is a domain. Eubacteria is a kingdom. So eukarya is broader of a concept than eubacteria, which is a kingdom. So if you're in kingdom eukarya, then you could be in kingdom eubacteria. Or you could also be in kingdom plantae, animalia, protista, fungi. There are 6 options. Okay. All right. Eukaryotic means having a nucleus. Having a nucleus. All right. Evolution, the gradual change in species over time. This is so creepy. Excretory, the system that removes your digestive waste. This also includes sweating, because you're removing toxic salt and the grossness that releases when you sweat, the fat that's broken down. All right, exponential growth, when a population grows double what we expected. Extinct, no longer alive, as we know it. Now, there is really technically no way to prove extinction because no one has literally seen every single corner of the universe at the exact same time. So there's not really a way to prove extinct, but we, as far as we know it, have not seen one in X amount of years. All right, food chain, single strand, single path of energy, producer to consumer, food web, and interconnection set of food chains that show a larger picture of the ecosystem. All right, fossil fuel, non-renewable resource. Non-renewable resource that is made out of compressed dead animals, not specifically just dinosaurs, but any compressed dead animal undergoes a lot of pressure and chemical change in the earth. We tap it, comes out, process it, comes out as a usable resource, not renewable. Fossil record, a history of the earth presented in the fossils that we dig up. Fossils, a historical, what do we call it, fossil? Incarceration? Segmented? Segment, sedimentary, rock. Why can't I think of a definition for a fossil right now? I'm hungry. It's just a fossil. Encased remnants. Yes, remnants. All right, fragmentation. DNA is not, it was like too easy. DNA is not identical. So fragmentation versus binary fission. Bi meaning two, fission meaning split. Binary is where it literally splits in half. You now have two identical copies. Fragmentation is if I were to drop a piece of glass and it shatters everywhere. Each one of those pieces is not the same thing, but each one of those pieces can now grow to become its own thing. Okay, so fragmentation is the breaking of DNA into parts, and therefore the offspring DNA is not identical. It's just like, well, it's just pieces. All right, freshwater, lakes, rivers, streams, only 3% of the world. 3% of the world's water is fresh and drinkable. So if you want to make $1 quadrillion, figure out a very quick and easy water filtration system to create ocean water into drinkable water. Okay, fun guy. Why did the mushroom get invited to all the parties? Because he was a fun guy. Okay, it's heterotrophic, meaning it has to eat other food. Multicellular, meaning has more than one. Eukaryotic, meaning has a nucleus, and has a cell wall, meaning there is a rigid structure on the outside, keeping its shape. All right, gene, a segment of DNA that codes for a specific trait. And what I mean by that, remember, is that you have a gene that your hair will have color. That gene has 2 alleles that tell you what color your hair will be. All right, genetic variation means diversity. Genetics is the study passing of traits from parents to offspring. Genotype, your genes, the actual letters. H, AA, BB. Global warming, the slowly increasing temperature of the Earth's surface. And why is that bad? Great question, because the ice, Antarctica already melting, those water levels are going to rise. Say goodbye to every island and coastal city. The hotter it gets, the less vegetation that we're able to grow, hello starvation, and natural disasters will continue to increase. So everything from typhoons to hurricanes, grasslands. This is a dry, wet, that didn't make sense, dry and warm during the summer. Wet and cold, not freezing, not frozen, not snowy, but cold in the winter. And this is mostly known as like most of Africa could be considered a grassland, like Sahara. Habitat, a place where something lives. And organisms, where an organism lives. Herbivore, eats plants. Heredity, the act of inheriting a specific trait. Heterotrophic, you have to eat other food. Heterozygous, meaning different alleles, big H, big A, little a. Homozygous, meaning same allele, little a, big H, big H. Host is the person being hurt during parasitism. Immune is the system that fights off infection. Inherited traits. Traits, obviously, characteristics that are passed down from parent to offspring. So this would be your mom's chin or your dad's eyes or your like grandfather's skin tone, anything that's passed down in your alleles. Levels of cellular organization, I meant cells, tissue, organ system, organism. Now remember, something like a bone is an organ, something like bone, tendons, and ligaments would be an organ system. And then something like an amoeba that is a single cell that is able to carry out all of its life would be a organism as well, because it's single, even though it's single celled, it can still carry out all of life's necessities. All right, levels of classification, domain, kingdom. I'm just going to take this to phylum, class, order, family, genus, species is last. And remember, domain is the broadest. Everything, there's only 3 domains. All the way down to species is super, super specific, where only you are Homo sapien. Species are things that can only mate with one another. So while dogs and cats are both kingdom, like Animalia, they cannot mate. They're not the same species. Okay. Limiting factors is something that prevents the growth of the population. A lysosome, the digestive enzyme that breaks down nutrients and waste. That's his waster. Waste in the cell. And this is our Pac-Man. All right, marine is a biome, including freshwater. Nope, marine is a biome. That's the ocean. Sorry about that, guys. That's the ocean. And there are currently 5 of them. And that makes up a great deal of our life. Right? Atlantic Pacific. Okay. Meiosis. Meiosis made me. This is 2 different stages where it splits once to create 2 cells and then splits again to create 4 cells. We started with 46 chromosomes. We end with 23. The only cell in your body that does this is an egg and a sperm. Remember, you have to have half the genetic material for them to come together to create an offspring that has 46. So meiosis made me. 2, 4 different. Mitosis is mitosis. Mitosis. These are the cells that make your toe, your toenail, your toe skin, your toe hair. There's one stage, you take 1 cell, it copies itself, splits once, creates 2 new cells. And those cells are the exact same. Remember, you would want your toe to grow back the same time, the same way every time. You don't want to cut your nail and it grows back hair. Like, can you imagine? Like, just, no. All right, multicellular, made up of many cells. Oh, sorry, mitochondria, powerhouse, responsible for energy. Muscular system that allows movement. Mutualism, the relationship where we have plus both benefit. And this is usually the most common example of this is larger animals being cleaned by smaller animals. So a crocodile getting his teeth cleaned by a bird allows them both to get dinner and a dental cleaning. The oxpeckers that remove the ticks off of the hogs, they get dinner, they get tick removal. So those are the most common. Natural selection, the process by which nature chooses individuals who are best suited to the environment. And what I mean by that is I do not say that like Mother Nature is sitting on a hill and is like, that giraffe is pleasant, I take that one. No, I'm saying that that giraffe who had that random mutation and was able to get to the trees up high because he had a longer neck has now been chosen by nature to be more successful. And therefore they will live long enough to reproduce. And then their children will have long necks, et cetera, et cetera. There is not, in this concept, there's not a Mother Nature saying, you, like in artificial selective breeding where we walk into a puppy pound and we say that one. Okay. Nervous, the system that reacts to stimuli, that creates and reacts to stimuli. Nervous system. This is when you feel hunger. Your body says to eat. There's that. So when you see someone that you think is cute and your heart starts to flutter and you get a little tummy ache. It's when you have a test and you don't want your parents to see it and all of a sudden you're sweating and there's a lump in your throat. All of that is nervous. Your heart beating in your lungs going in and out without you having to think about it. That's your nervous system. Nucleus, the brain of the cell, aka control center. Organelle, a small specific structure that has a small structure that has a specific job, specific function. All right, we know the organelles as nucleus, cytoplasm, cell wall, cell membrane, etc., etc. Overpopulation, too many people. All right, parasitism. We have a plus sign, we have a sad face. A sad face. Parasitism, one benefits, aka the parasite. One is harmed, aka the host. The parasite, the one benefiting. Parasite, the one benefiting. Nope, I did not want paradise. All right, phenotype, phenophysical, what you can literally see. My genotype, capital G, gives me the phenotype, brown hair. All right. Plantae, another kingdom. We have eukaryotic, meaning it has a nucleus. Multicellular, meaning it has more than one cell. Autotroph, meaning it makes its own food, and a cell wall. This is just a plant. And you knew all that already. You knew that it had a cell wall. You knew that there was more than one. You knew that it had a nucleus. And you knew it made its own food through photosynthesis. We just learned the word autotroph. You already knew all that. All right. Pollution, the dirtying, the harming of the atmosphere, or man-made products. All right. Population. This is a large number of the same species in a specific area. All right. Population density is how many of those people are in there. How many in that specific area. Population size is how many are there total. The total number of that species. Okay. Predation, the act of predator-prey. The act of predator-prey, one eating another. Therefore, the predator is the one doing the eating. The prey is the one getting eaten. All right, producer gets energy from the sun to make its own food, aka an autotroph. All right, prokaryotic, no nucleus, pro equals no. No nucleus. All right, Protista, one of our kingdoms, very, very, very different from all the others. There's not really another category that it tucks in with because it's eukaryotic and unicellular. So it has a nucleus, but there's only one of them. And it's both heterotrophic and autotrophic. So this guy is just a complete random. He woke up and chose violence. He said, I'm going to have a nucleus. There's only going to be one of me, and I'm going to eat however I want. Protista, protest. Okay, did his own thing. Punnett square, a graph used to show the potential probable. Remember, there's a difference of probable and possible. Probability of specific, probability of traits in offspring based on their parents' genotypes. Remember, it's 2 boxes, Tom. Boom, boom, 2 boxes, Tom. Slide to the right. That's Punnett square. Recessive, the trait that only shows up if it's homozygous, meaning it can only be AA. Nope, don't correct me. Stop correcting me. little a, because I won't stop capitalizing. Okay, respiratory, the system that exchanges oxygen, carbon dioxide, works most with circulatory, which we know is also called cardiovascular. All right, savanna is a type of grassland. Savanna is a specific type of grassland. Scavenger. Now, here's our difference between scavengers and decomposers. Remember, decomposers return nutrients to the earth. Scavengers do not. They just steal and then go on about their life. So they eat the remains of other predators' kills. So I don't even know if you could call them predators so much as just opportunistic. All right, selective breeding is also artificial selection. Also artificial selection, aka humans pick. And remember, we do not pick them for the peakness of that animal. We have created a pug that can no longer reproduce itself, breathe, move. And chickens that are like this big. We're not doing it for the benefit. We're doing it for the human like outcome that we want. Sexual reproduction, 2 parents. And genetically diverse. Creates genetic variation, aka genetic diversity, because their offspring are different. Speciation, the formation of a new species. Spores. Do you guys know the little dandelion things that you hold up and it's like a white ball and you blow on it and you make a wish? Okay, when those blow everywhere, that is a spore. It's asexually reproduced by being spread out, and now it's going to just create more of itself in that next area. So the wind is the way, like, you know, like bees pollinate. The wind is what allows spores to reproduce in a different environment. So it's asexual and they grow by spreading. All right, symbiosis is any relationship between 2 species in the same space. Okay, so it's a different species, right? It's not 2 like clownfish, because that's just marriage, you know. It's oxpecker and a rhino, a crocodile and a bird, a barnacle and a whale. Symbiosis. Taiga. This is another forest. Remember, we have the temperate deciduous forest, which is where we live. And that is right here. So I might as well fill that in. I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? Deciduous. It also has 4 seasons. And those are kind of your key ones for that. A temperate forest has 4 seasons in deciduous trees. A taiga has coniferous trees, and it's more of like, here's how you think of taiga, is like Twilight. You know, like Twilight, that's a taiga. That's a more of a coniferous, dark, rainy, cloudy, a little moss, might have like some frosted snow on there. And then there's a tundra that's like frozen, like the Arctic tundra. There's Antarctica, there's Seattle, and then there's Georgia, right? So Georgia is more of a temperate deciduous. Seattle, Twilight would be like a taiga, coniferous, and then the Arctic is like a tundra. Okay. Taxonomy, the act of naming and classifying. So taxonomy is here. It then splits into classification and bino-nomen. Remember, both of those come together to be taxonomy. All right. Temperate deciduous, 4 seasons, a theory. This has been proven, has been replicated, an explanation for a phenomenon that can be tested scientifically. But why do we call it a theory and not a law? Because you can always present new information. The beauty of science is that we will take best idea wins. Whatever you said, whatever scientists prove is accurate is the most up to date. So a theory is, we've tested this, we've tried it. Gravity was a theory until 5 years ago. Gravity was a theory until 5 years ago, because then we created a camera that allowed us to see the gravitational matrix. Boom, proof, now a law. Okay, so theory, like, you can't prove an opposite. Does that make sense? All right, trace fossils. This is a trace of a fossil. So a footprint, a leaf print, not something you can tangibly hold, but something that has left its mark. Trophic level, steps of a food chain. All right, tropical rainforest, the most diverse vegetation, the most diverse amount of species. Of species in the world. Okay, we're almost done. Tundra, Arctic, frozen. Even the top is so frozen, it's called permafrost because it's permanently frozen. Unicellular, made up of one cell, mostly bacteria. And then wetlands, a marsh in which the first layer, so like Florida, like bogs, you know, like marshes, bogs and marshes are wetlands. Guys, that's it. We finished. We're done. That's every single definition on this entire page. That's every term that's on the quiz or on the test, every definition. You did it. How you like them apples?